VaudevillePress.com and its affiliated distributors present Orla, Wallace and the Round Dial Players, now on the interwebs in a parody of The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. We give you Vaudeville Press's version, Woke of the Worlds. Ladies and gentlemen, the director of the Round Dial Players and the star of this ridiculousness, Mr. Orla, Wallace.
We now know that early in the 20th century, our planet was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man's, and yet mortal as his own. Not that it took much, fucking idiots.
We know now that as human beings busied themselves with various minutiae, they were scrutinized and studied almost as narrowly as people's opinions or perhaps a man with a microscope might scrutinize the transient creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water, or even worse, an independent thought.
How naughty of you.
With infinite complacency, people with their mission of misplaced importance serene of the assurance of the dominion over this small spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space.
And yet across an immense ethereal gulf minds that to our minds as to assure intellects vast, cool, and unsympathetic, regardless of the earth, without envious eyes, and slowly and surely drew their plans against us. In this 39th year of the 20th century came the great disillusionment, a cautionary tale of how to scare the bejesus out of a nation with little or no effort. With the nation defrosting, business was shite, but getting better. Maybe you can relate. The war scare was over, more men were back at work, sales were picking up. On this particular evening, October 30th, the Crowley broadcast service estimated that 32 million were listening in on their radios that very night.
Yeah, after the next 24 hours, not much change is going to happen in temperature, bros. A slight atmospheric disturbance to undermine origin has been reported over Nova Scotia, causing a low pressure area to move down rather rapidly over the northeastern states and shit. But it's going to bring a forecast of rain, man, accompanied by winds of light gale force. Maximum temperature 66 with the minimum of 47. This weather report comes to you from the government. The do nothing but convince you otherwise Weather Bureau. We now return you dudes to our regular scheduled programming.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and all those lost at sea. From the Meridian Room in the Park Plaza, New York City, we bring you the music of Stefan Ramon, with a touch of acoustic guitar. Stefan Ramon leads off with La Condista Senorita, who writes the...
Ladies and gentlemen, and all in between, we interrupt our program of repulsive modern dance music with no heart and soul to bring you some bullshit special bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. It is 20 minutes before 8 o'clock Central Time. Professor Farrell of the Mount Jennings Observatory in Chicago, Illinois, reports observing several explosions of incandescent gas occurring at regular intervals on the planet Mars. The spectroscope indicates that the gas to be hydrogen and moving towards the Earth with enormous velocity. Professor Pierce of the observatory at Princeton confirms Farrell's observation and describes the phenomenon as, and I quote, like a jet of blue flame shot from a gun, unquote. We now return you to the music of Stefan Ramon, playing for you in the Meridian Room of the Park Plaza Hotel, situated in downtown New York.
And now a romantic song that never loses favor, the ever-popular and lifeless What's That on My Face? By Stefan Ramon and his orchestra.
What? Again? Can I play the fucking song?
Sorry for the interruption again, Mr. Stefan. Dear carbon-based bipedal life forms, following the news given in our bulletin just moments ago, the Government Meteorological Bureau has requested the large observatories of the country keep an astronomical watch on any further disturbance occurring on the planet Mars. Due to the unusual nature of this occurrence and our inability to convey actual facts, we have arranged an interview with an actual astronomer, not an oversensitive articleist found on social media. We go to Professor Dick Pierce, who will give us his views, not that of his cousin from the local Five and Dime on the event, live from Princeton Observatory, ironically located in Princeton, New Jersey. We return you, then, to the music of Stefan Ramon. I'm not playing no more for you. We now are ready to take you to Princeton Observatory at Princeton, where our first height-challenged, left-handed, French-Canadian, dyslexic, neurodivergent, birther of three, sight-subjective, non-hearing impaired, female commentator, Phyllis could care less. Our on-the-ground news correspondent who will now interview Professor Richard Pierce, famous astronomer. We now take you to Princeton, New Jersey.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Phyllis Codcarls, speaking to you from the observatory at Princeton. I am standing in a large semicircular room, pitch black, except for an oblong split in the ceiling. Through this opening, I can see a sprinkling of stars that cast kind of a frosty glow over the intricate mechanism of the huge telescope. That ticking sound you hear is the vibration of the clockwork. Oh, just a sec. Now that's the vibration of the clockwork. Or should I say cockwork? Anyway, moving on, Professor Pierce stands directly above me on a platform, peering through a giant lens. I ask our viewers, please don't forget to click, share, and like, and to be patient during any delay that may arise during our interview. Besides his ceaseless watch of the heavens, Professor Pierce may be interrupted by people with no manners, or some random bullshit text from people who could never return his, like Brad from Schenectady. Fucker. During this period, he is in constant touch via phone calls with the astronomical centers of the world. Professor, may I begin our questions?
At any time, Phyllis.
Professor, would you please tell our inept...
Nothing unusual at the moment, Miss Could Care Less. A red disc, swimming in a blue sea. Transverse stripes across the disc. Quite distinct now because Mars happens to be the point nearest to the Earth that the billionaires want to travel to. But the public will call it oppression.
It's Codcarls with one S, okay? Thank you. In your opinion, what do these transverse stripes signify, Professor?
Well, don't sit in a long chair for too long. I fell asleep in one once and took 3 days to lose those lines from those damn straps. Oh, Mars. I guess you are educated. Well, not canals, I can assure you, Phyllis, although that's popular conjecture for those who imagine Mars to be inhabited. From a scientific viewpoint, the stripes here are merely the result of an atmospheric condition particular to the planet. I read an article.
Then you're quite convinced, as a scientist and a jazz enthusiast, that living intelligence as we know it does not exist on Mars.
Hell, we don't even have it on this planet, Mars. I'd say the chances against it are 1,000 to 1, based on my feels and emotional state, which, of course, as you know, is more important.
How do you account for those gas eruptions occurring on the surface of the planet at regular intervals?
Taco Tuesday, Grandma's cooking, fuck if I know. I can't account for it.
By the way, Professor, for the benefit of our listeners, how far is Mars from Earth?
As fuck, which, as you well know, is pretty far, but approximately 40 million Earth miles for people who read a book.
Well, that seems a safe distance enough. Rude. Thank you.
Excuse me?
Just a moment, theys and thems. Some jagoff just interrupted us by handing the professor a message. He's reading it and totally ignoring me. Hello? Let me remind you that we are speaking to you from the observatory in Princeton, New Jersey, where we are the world-famous astronomer, Professor Dick Pierce, because you all have the memories of a dead gnat. One moment, please. Professor Pierce has passed me a message which he has just received. Professor, may I read the message to the listening audience? You know, for shits and giggles.
Might as well. Go right ahead. Someone's nosy.
Addressed to Professor Dick Pierce from
That's
the
me.
Dr. Saver of the National History Museum, New York. 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Seismograph registered a shock of earthquake intensity occurring within a radius of 20 miles of Princeton. Please investigate. Signed, Lloyd N. Saver, Chief of Astronomical Division. Professor Pierce, could this occurrence possibly have something to do with the disturbances observed on the planet Mars?
Hardly, Phyllis. Do your fingers hurt from grasping? Well, the most obvious conclusion using current media logic is obviously a bird farted on Jupiter and created a chain reaction that made the sky shit all of Helen. That is the cause. No, I jest. Does anyone take real science classes anymore? Probably a meteorite of unusual size trying to avoid meteor shaming here. Its arrival at this particular time is merely a coincidence. Nothing to see here, move along. What are you, a conspiracy theorist? Please. I mean, come on. If it was a world killer, we'd already be dead. However, we shall conduct a search as soon as we have all the means to cover it up and feed you a line of state-sponsored bullshit.
Thanks, Dick. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been speaking to you from the observatory at Princeton, bringing you a special interview with Professor Dick Pierce, noted astronomer and jazz enthusiast. This is Phyllis Codcarl speaking. We are returning you now to our New York studio because I am stuck doing this fucking remote. I need a drink.
Humans of all kinds, here is the latest bullshit but pleasant update from the Intercontinental Radio News, Toronto, Canada. Professor Moss of McGill University reports observing a total of 3 explosions on the planet Mars between the hours of 7:45 p.m. and 9:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What time is it on Mars? We do not know. We can only imagine. This confirms earlier reports received from the American observatories, now closer to home. It is reported that at 8:50 p.m., a huge flaming object believed to be a unusual-sized meteorite fell on a farm located in the neighborhood of Grover's Mill, New Jersey, 22 miles from Trenton. Like that means something. The flash in the sky was visible within a radius of several hundred miles, and the noise of the impact was heard as far north as Elizabeth. Apparently, it was a big one. We have dispatched a special unit on the scene and will have our commentator, Phyllis Could Care Less, give you a word description as soon as she can reach there from Princeton. In the meantime, we take you to the Hotel Marinette in Brooklyn, where Bobby No Talent Chillette and her orchestra are offering a program of dance music. Thank you, Chet. We now take you to Muskie's Mill, New Jersey.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Phyllis
All right, now, everyone keep
Codcarls
clear.
again at the
Push
Calhoun
back
Farm
now.
located
Don't get
at
too
Muskie
close. You
Mills,
might
New
kill
Jersey.
yourself or get yourself
Professor
killed
Pierce
or
and
even
I made
hurt.
the 11-mile
That could
trek
be
from
worse.
Princeton
More
in
lawsuits.
10 minutes
Everyone,
by
stay to the
car.
side.
Like it's not a big
Stay
deal,
to the
but
side.
stress for
Military
drama's
will be
sake.
here shortly.
Well, I hardly know where to begin. To paint a picture of the strange scene we have here, like something out of I can't even fucking explain it, really. Like, well, I haven't had a chance to look around yet. I mean, I guess that's it. Yes, I guess that's the thing. I don't mean that in the insensitive way, as I would hate to offend an alien visitor. Directly in front of me, we have a half-buried whatchamacallit in a vast pit. Must have struck with intensity like it fell from the sky or something. The ground is covered with splinters that used to be a tree. It must have struck on its way down due to that pesky gravity thing, or so they say. What I can see of the object itself, it doesn't look very much like a meteor, at least not like the meteors I've seen on Facebook. It looks like a huge cylinder, like one of our leaders uses against us when they have us bent over. It has a diameter of what would you say, Professor Pierce?
What's that?
What would you say? What is the diameter?
About 30 yards.
About 30 yards. Now that is some girth. Am I right, ladies and the well-dressed? The metal on the sheath is, well, I've never seen anything like it. The color is sort of yellowish white. Curious spectators now approaching the object like idiots in spite of the efforts of the police to keep them back. Social workers, the real heroes here today. are yet showing up en masse. They're getting in front of my line of vision. Would you mind standing to one side, please?
Well, excuse
Thank
me,
you.
Karen.
I am more
God.
important than you.
One side there, one side.
While the policemen are mentally pushing the crowd back due to the budget cuts and sincere training, here's Mr. Calhoun, owner of the farm here. He may have some interesting facts to add, as he's a layman and apparently knows more than the educated. Mr. Calhoun, would you please tell the audience as much as you can, exaggerate of this rather unusual visitor that has dropped in your backyard? Step closer, please. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Calhoun.
Well, I was just sitting there taking a shit like a motherfucker and listening to the radio that you were on by chance.
Louder, please, and closer.
Yes, ma'am. Like I was saying, I was listening to the radio and kind of nodding off and all. You know, baking the turd, so to speak. Been a long day and all. Well, you know, that's when that professor fella started talking shit about Mars, so I was kind of like half dozing and half pushing.
Yes, Mr. Calhoun. How pleasant. Then what happened?
As I was saying, I was listening to the radio kind of half-assed.
Yes, Mr. Calhoun, and then you saw something?
Well, not first off, more like I heard something.
And what did you hear?
A hissing sound, kind of like this. That was right after the splash, by the way. Kind of like them 4th of July rockets and such that pisses off the dogs and the old lady.
Then what?
Well, I turned my head and put it out the window because it stank to high hell in there.
Ah, Christ.
You're telling me. I seen a greenish streak and I wouldn't, you know it, bam, something smacked the ground like a set of heavy balls to a hooker's chin. You know what I mean? Knocked me clear off my pooping chair. Hell, I even grabbed the change jar in case shit was getting real. Never know when you're gonna need escape funds and all.
Well, were you frightened, Mr. Calhoun?
Lady, I grabbed my change jar. It knocked me off my poop chair. I ain't quite sure. I was kind of wigging the fuck out, I can tell you that much. You could say it kind of scared the shit right out of me.
Thank you, Mr. Calhoun. Thank you. It's important that you stay regular.
You want me to tell you some more, like when they shoved that probe up my ass quicker than shit?
No. That's quite all right. Really, that's plenty.
Don't know if I'll ever be able to crap right again. I can tell you it was colder than a witch's tit.
Okay. Well, let's... Ladies and gentlemen, you've just heard Mr. Calhoun, owner of the farm where this thing has fallen. I wish I could convey the atmosphere. Really. The background behind me, fantastic scene. Just everyone basically freaking the fuck out. Due to conflicting information, hundreds of cars are parked in a field in back of us like it's a music festival, a gathering of deviants. Police are trying to close the highway leading to the farm, but it's no use. No one listens. They're breaking right through, totally ignoring the police. Cars' headlights throw an enormous spotlight on the pit where the whatchamacallit's half buried. Some of the more daring idiots are now venturing near the edge. Their silhouettes stand out against the metal sheen. One man wants to touch the thing. Pig! He's having an argument with a policeman.
Get back, you fucking
And
bastard.
the policeman wins. He must be old school. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's something I haven't mentioned in all of this excitement. Now it's becoming more distinct. Perhaps you've caught it already on your radio. Listen to this shit. Did you hear it? It seems to be a curious humming sound radiating out from inside the object. I'll move the microphone nearer. Now, I'm not more than 25 feet away. Can you hear it now? Oh, Professor Pierce.
Yes, could care less.
Can you tell us what the hell that noise inside the thing is?
Possibly the unequal cooling of its surface, or an alien scratching at the interior who wants to eat all of our fucking faces off and let the world fucking burn. I can tell you this for one, I think it's annoying as hell. We have no facts to report, just the usual speculation of hypotheticals that only subtract from the subject matter at hand, and of course stoke fear. It's not rocket science.
I see. Do you think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The media hasn't told me yet. Still waiting to hear from the Cashiers of America organization and what their uneducated opinion might be. It's important to gather all the untruths to really fuck up the information flow. The metal casing is definitely of
extraterrestrial origin, which means not found on this earth. Possibly France. Look at it. It's quality made, like an old Kenmore oven. Definitely not France. Friction is the Earth's atmosphere usually tears holes in a meteorite. This thing is smooth and, as you can see, of a cylindrical shape. Hey, you want to touch it?
Boy, can I? Oh, just a minute. Something's happening. Ladies and gentlemen, this is terrific. The end of the thing is beginning to flake off. The top is beginning to rotate like a screw. The thing must be hollow. We may see a happy ending after all.
She's a-moving. Look, the damn thing's unscrewing. Keep back, I tell you. Maybe there's men in it trying to escape, or God forbid, a fucking woman. It's red hot, they'll burn to a cinder. Keep back, keep those idiots back. Well, except for those two. They're in the media.
She took off there. Where? Now you pervert, the object. The top's loose. Look out. Stand back.
Folks, this is the most terrifying thing I've ever witnessed. Worse than any class reunion. Wait a minute. Someone's crawling out of the hollow top. Someone or something. I can see peering out of that black hole. They're two luminous discs. Are they eyes? Pasties? Get out! Oh, wait. It might be a face. My bad. Sweet mother of Jesus. What the fuck is that?
Run, you stupid bastards!
Watch your language!
Pardon my French. Good heavens. Something's wriggling out of the shadow like a gray snake. Now it's another one and another. They look like tentacles to me. There, I can see the thing's body. It's large as a bear, and it glistens like wet leather. Very similar to an after-hours club. But that face, ladies and gentlemen, it's indescribable. More cringeworthy than expected. I can hardly force myself to look away. The eyes are black, and they gleam like a serpent. The mouth is V-shaped, with saliva dripping from it. Its rimless lips that seem to quiver and pulsate. The monster, or whatever it is, can hardly move. It seems weighed down by possibly oppression, gravity, contrary opinion, or something else we've got no clue about. But don't worry, I am sure someone read an article somewhere that can inform us with zero bias. The thing's raising up, like morning wood. The crowd is falling back now. They've seen plenty. This is the most extraordinary experience. With me as I talk, because no one has invented wireless microphones yet. I'll have to stop the description until I can get a better view. If only these peasants would get out of my way. Hold on. Will you please? I'll be back in a minute. Move it, sister!
We are bringing you an eyewitness account of what's happening on the Calhoun Farm in Muskie's Mill, New Jersey. We now return you to Phyllis Kudkalas at Muskie's Mill.
Ladies and gentlemen, am I on? Hello? Is this fucking mic working? Ladies and gentlemen, here I am at the back of the stone wall that adjoins Mr. Calhoun's garden. From here, I get a sweep of the whole scene. My Lord. The shit in this man's yard. I'll give you every detail as long as I can talk. As long as I can see. More state police have arrived. They're roping off the front of the pit, about 30 of them. No need to push back the crowd now. They're willing to social distance on their own. The captain is conferring with Professor Pierce. Yes, it is. Now they've parted. The professor moves around one side, studying the object, while the captain and two policemen advance with something in their hands. I can see it now. It's a white handkerchief tied to a pole. A flag of truce? If those creatures even know what that means, what anything means, in their world, it could be a call to endless war that just feeds their military-industrial complex, or so I've read. Wait, something's happening. A hump shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out what looks like a small beam of light against a mirror. What's that? There's a jet of flame springing from the mirror, and it leaps right at the advancing men. It strikes them head on. Oh, good Lord, they're turning into flame. Flesh melting off their bones before they hit the ground, and oh my God, the smell. Now the whole field's caught on fire. The woods, the barns, the gas tanks of the automobiles, it's spreading everywhere. It's coming this way, about 20 yards to my right. Well, Well, fuck you too, you motherfucker. Tell him I did it for Johnny. Bring it on, shit-ass!
Oh, wow, that's a bummer. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Due to circumstances beyond our control, we are unable to continue to broadcast from Muskie's Mill. Evidently, there's some difficulty with our field transmission, due to peaceful union protests. However, we will return to the point of earliest opportunity to reinforce a false narrative. In the meantime, we have a late bulletin from San Diego, California. Professor Frida Fukhofer, speaking at a dinner at the California Astronomical Society, expressed the opinion that the explosions on Mars are undoubtedly nothing more than severe volcanic disturbances on the planet. We do have a quote that other news networks are reporting on without checking any reliable source, of course, saying that the moon is in retrograde according to the astrologers to the stars. Vita Bupkis. We now continue with this sweet-ass guitar riff by Jason and the Knuckle Draggers of Doom.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been handed a message that came in from Muskie's Mill by telephone just a moment ago. At least 40 people, including 6 state troopers, lie dead in the field east of the village of Muskie's Mill. Their bodies burned and destroyed beyond all possible recognition, like the truth. The next voice you hear will be the Brigadier General Hecafino, commander of the state militia at Trenton, New Jersey.
That's Hecafino. I have been requested by the governor of New Jersey to place the counties of Mercer and Middlesex as far west as Princeton and east to Jamesburg under martial law. No one will be permitted to enter this area except by special passport issued by the state or military authorities. No, not even influencers are allowed in this area to fake pose or gaslight as if they are actually lifting a finger to help society or, God forbid, someone, instead of hindering it or them. 4 companies of National Guard are proceeding from Trenton to Muskie's Mill and will aid in the evacuation of individuals as long as they are not homeless or unable to move due to disability, within the range of total peaceful military operations currently underway. Thank you, and shut up.
You have just been listening to General Hecafino commanding the National Guard at Trenton. In the meantime, further details of the catastrophe at Muskie's Mill are coming in. The strange creatures have yet to identify their sexual preference or gender, confusing the media and, of course, the young. Soon after unleashing their deadly assault, these creatures crawled back into their pit and have made no attempt to prevent the efforts of the firemen to recover the bodies and extinguish the fire, fed by flesh and competing misinformation. The fire departments of Mercer County are fighting the flames which endanger the entire countryside due to dead growth unremoved and conserved, as well as moving their water supply 300 miles south. We have been unable to establish any contact with our mobile unit at Muskie's Mill, but we hope to be able to return you there at the earliest possible moment. In the meantime, we take you... Just one moment, please. What? Are you fucking kidding me right now? Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yes? What? Shit. Uh-huh. Yes. Uh-huh. Fuck me. Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been informed that we have finally established communication with an eyewitness of the tragedy. Professor Pierce has been located at a farmhouse near Muskie's Mill, where he has established an emergency observation post, which basically means he is still alive in the middle of the shit show going on over there and has a connection we can exploit, especially if he dies. As a scientist, he will give you his explanation of the calamity, though you may disagree, even though you never passed basic earth science or biology in high school. The next voice you will hear will be that of Professor Pierce, brought to you by Direct Wire. Professor Pierce.
Well, so far, of the 9 identified creatures in the rocket cylinder at Muskie's Mill, I can give you no authoritative factual information to base your emotions on, either as to their nature, their origin, sexual orientation, gender, or more importantly, affiliation of political party. Or other purposes here on Earth, but. So, for want of a better term, I shall refer to the mysterious weapons of mass destruction as a heat ray.
Obviously misogynistic, so we're going to have to change that. It's all too evident that these creatures have some sort of bougie-woogie scientific knowledge far in advance of our own know-it-alls. It's my guess that they are able to generate an intense heat in a chamber of practically absolute non-conductivity. Of course, I base this on zero education or knowledge on how their physics work on their planet. I mean, much less ours. I mean, smarter than us? Bitch, please. It is apparent they can send an intense heat and project it in a parallel beam against any object they choose by means of a polished parabolic mirror of unknown composition, much as like the mirror of a lighthouse projects a beam of light but hyper-focused. For those of you that have seen one of those in a movie that hasn't been released yet. That is my bullshit guess of the origin of the off-planet. Are you kidding me? Is this an updated term? Seriously? Okay. Of the heat, Rachel. Thank you, Professor Pierce. We have here a bulletin from Trenton informing us that the charred body of Phyllis Codcollis has been identified. Thank you for your service. Moving on. From Washington, D.C., the Office of the Director of the National Red Cross reports 10 units of Red Cross emergency workers have been assigned to the headquarters of the National Guard stationed outside Muskie's Mill, New Jersey. Another bulletin from State Police, Conjunction Junction. The fires at Muskie's Mill and vicinity are now being fought, although people's opinions and reactions still burning out of control with no end in sight. Reporters say all is quiet in the pit and no signs of life appearing from the mouth or the ass of the cylinder. We have a special statement from Mr. Harry Johnson, Vice President in charge of operations. We have received a request from the military to place at their disposal our entire broadcast and facilities. In view of the gravity of the situation and believing that non-image-based communication has a responsibility to always serve in the public interest, okay, maybe occasionally, but not for long. All we ask is you tune into our Sunday sermon and give freely. We are turning over our facilities to the National Guard momentarily. We now take you to the field headquarters of the National Guard near Muskie's Mill, New Jersey.
Thank you, Chet. This is Captain Lansing of the National Guard, now engaged in the military operations of the vicinity of Muskie's Mill. The reported presence of certain individuals or unidentified nature is now reportedly under complete control. The cylindrical object directly below our position is surrounded on all sides by 8 battalions of infantry. Adequately armored rifles and machine guns with the no-fire order without ammunition or the ability to fire back. We can only be offended as a defensive move if fired upon due to feelings of others that influence policy and never enlist. All cause for alarm, if such an alarm ever existed. It is now entirely unjustified. Let it be noted under my command, my troops do in fact have ammo and are able to fire back if fired upon. We are not cannon fodder. We are humanity's last stand. I can give you their hiding place plainly in the glare of the planet killer and meeting searchlights here. These creatures can scarcely stand up against heavy machine gun fire in theory. Anyway, it's an interesting outing for the troops. I can make out their khaki uniforms crossing back and forth in the lights. It looks almost like a real war on camera. There appears to be some slight smoke in the woods, probably a fire started by some dirty fucking hippie. Or someone who lost it all due to offshore manufacturing and, of course, some unbeknownst campers about to die in a lake. Well, we ought to see some action soon is what I'm saying. One of the companies here is deploying on the left flank. One quick thrust and it could all be over. Just like that one night on an avocado farm in a tent with my first love, Fernando. One day there might be a song about him. The troops are on the edge of the Calhoun farm, 7,000 armed men closing in on an old metal tube. Wait, that wasn't a shadow. Something moving. Solid metal. Kind of a sheath-like affair raising up out of the cylinder. Seems to be raising higher and higher, very similar to how some people's self-importance who inject themselves into something that doesn't involve them, or a space boner, take your pick. Why, it's standing on legs, actually rearing up in sort of a metal framework. Now it's reaching above the trees and the searchlights are on it. Well, shit. It's walking. We are so fucked.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make, incredible as it may seem. Both the observations of science and the evidence of our own eyes lead to the inescapable assumption, and we are not judging them, those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight in the advance guard of an invading army from the planet Mars. The battle which took place tonight at Muskie's Mill has ended in one of the most startling defeats ever suffered by any army in modern times. 7,000 men armed with rifles and machine guns pitted against a single fighting machine of the invaders from Mars. 120 known survivors. The rest strewn over the battlefield from Muskie's Mill to buttfuck Egypt. Crushed and trampled to death under the metal feet of these unidentified aliens as they were snapping away selfies to ensure their self-importance and vapid influence. We do have to say this now. Okay, or be burned to cinders by its undiscriminating heat rituals. The alien, whom the media thinks may be the independent thinker, or possibly even worse, an atheist. It now seems it is now in control of the middle section of New Jersey and has effectively cut through the state through its center. We are truly a state divided. Communication with families and communities are split down the middle from Pennsylvania to the Atlantic Ocean. Railroad tracks are torn and service from New York to Philadelphia, as well as others, will now be discontinued except routing some people who are not taking it personally into Allentown and Phoenixville. Highways to the north, south, and west are clogged with frantic human traffic of pseudo-influencers and hangers-on who will now have a special frame around their profile pictures supporting the programmed rage of the day, like Mario jumping up and hitting his coin. Social workers, National Guard, and the police are unable to control the mad flight by morning. The East Coast fugitives will have swelled Philadelphia, Camden, and Trenton to twice their normal population of their self-importance. Currently, martial law prevails throughout New Jersey and eastern Pennsylvania. Politicians have already released political party fundraising letters due to the alien interference. We will now take you to Washington for a special broadcast of the National Emergency System. I introduce to you the Secretary of the Interior.
Citizens of the nation as well as all others, I am not going to sugarcoat this shit for you. The gravity of the situation that currently confronts the country or the concern of your government servants who have all bailed on you and they should have been protecting the lives and the property of its people. However, I will wish to make this clear as fucking glass. Private citizen and public officials, all of you, the urgent need to calm the fuck down and gather your resources because you may have to put that shit into action to save your own ass. Hello? Contrary to what people might think, the government cannot help you. They do not care unless it is 2 months before any election. I mean, how many times do you have to fall for this? Fortunately, this formidable enemy is still confined to a completely small area, and some may place their faith in our hamstrung military forces. If not, we will have to ask to employ all the arm owners in the country in a show of massive force against this unmitigated threat. We now take anyone down to slingshotists. In the meantime, placing our faith in God, we must continue the performance of our duties, each and every one of us, so that we may confront the destructive adversary with a nation united, courageous, and consecrated to the preservation of human supremacy on this planet. I thank you.
Did he just say supremacist?
Oh my God,
Are
he
you
sure
fucking
did.
kidding me? He said human supremacy? Fuck the human race! Fuck the human race! Fuck the human race! No?
Are you fucking kidding me right now with this chanting? Oh boy. Watch, it's the end of the world and I get in trouble for saying oh boy.
Sir, your mic's on.
Can't hear you.
That was the Secretary of the Interior, live from Washington, D.C. Too many bulletins to read as the pile is almost 2 feet high. And climbing, the central portion of New Jersey is blocked from all radio communications. due to the effect of the heat Rachels from the Martians. One moment. Special bulletin in from New York. The English, French, and German scientific communities are offering assistance as are millions of uninformed masses who believe themselves to be more informed simply because they have a feeling. Astronomers, not astrologists, astronomers, report continued gas outbursts at regular intervals on planet Mars. This is the largest gaslighting event we have seen to date, or at least in one single religion. Majority voice opinion from the hysterical claim that the enemy will be reinforced by additional rocket machines built by space Nazis? Are you kidding me with this? Jesus fucking Christ. Attempts made to locate Professor Pierce of Princeton, who has observed Martians at close range, according to people that were not there but know better. It is feared he was lost in the battle, prior destroyed for his opinion. Oh, the humanity! Langham Field, Virginia. Scouting planes report 3 Martian machines visible above the treetops, moving north toward Somerville with its population hauling ass out of town. Ahead of them, the heat Rachel is currently being used against us by the jagoffs from outer space, although they are advancing at high speed. They seem to be making a conscious effort to avoid the destruction of the cities and the countryside, probably just looking to flip it. However, they are stopping to uproot power lines, bridges, and railroad tracks as if they are feeding on them. It's like drugs to them, those space dopers and their blues. Their apparent objective is to crush resistance, paralyze communication, and disorganize human society, which should not take but a few minutes. Just like the 24-hour news networks. Just in from Basket Ridge, New Jersey, snipe hunters have stumbled on a second non-licensed Martian craft in the Great Swamp 20 miles south of Morristown. The National Guard is moving heavy artillery from Newark to blow up the second invading unit before cylinders open its can of whoop-ass. They are taking up position in the foothills of the Wang Chung Mountains, Langham, Virginia. Spy planes are reporting 3 enemy machines increasing speed northward, devouring houses and disintegrating trees in their effortless move to rendezvous with the Allies south of their location. This is progress faster than urban gentrification. Machines are sighted by Uber driver east of Middlesex within 10 miles of Plainfield. Winston Field, Long Island. Fleet of Army bombers carrying mother of all bombs in pursuit of what is now the Martian enemy. Scouting planes act as guides. They keep speeding up with every act of destruction. Impressive as hell, but scary. The Martians are in sight. Just a moment, please. We have someone on the ground in the village to give you direct reports of the advancing enemy. First, we take you to the battery of the 22nd Field Artillery located in the Wang Chung Mountains.
Range, 32 meters.
32 meters.
Projection, 39 degrees.
39 degrees.
Fire!
140 yards to the right, man.
Shift range, 31 meters.
31 meters.
Projection, 37 degrees.
37 degrees.
Fire!
Hit, sir. We hit one of them 3-legged bastards. They've stopped, but the others are trying to repair it. I wonder if they brought a spare, man.
Quick, get the range. Shift, 30 meters.
30 meters.
Projection, 27 degrees.
27 degrees.
Fire!
Can't see the shell land, man. They're letting off some kind of what looks to be like hookah smoke.
Excuse me?
Black smoke, man. Moving this way. Low-lying fog and it's moving fast.
Put on the gas mask. Get ready to fire. Shift. 24 meters.
24 meters.
Projection, 24 degrees.
24 degrees.
Fire!
Still can't see, man. The smoke's coming near, and it's good shit, sir.
Get the range.
23 meters.
23 meters.
23 meters. Projection, 22 degrees, man.
22 degrees.
Army bombing plane V-8-43 off Bayonne, New Jersey. Lieutenant Vaught, commanding 8 bombers. Reporting to Commander Fairfax Langham Field. This is Vaught, reporting to Commander Fairfax Langham Field. Enemy tripod Martian machines now in sight with 3 machines from Morristown Cylinder. There are now 6 altogether. From what I can see, our machine guns are not able-bodied, believed to be hit by the Army gun in the Wangtown Mountains. Guns appear silent, a heavy black fog hanging close to the earth, of extreme density, nature unknown. No sign of the deployment of their hate Rachels as the Martians cross into the Pacific Palisades. Into the Jersey marshes, another straddles the Pulaski Skyway. Seems the objective is New York City. The machines are closer now, playing circling, ready to strike 1,000 yards, and we'll be over there first. 800 yards, 600, 400, 200. There they go, their giant arms raised. Green flash. They're spraying us with some green flaming snot, 2,000 feet. Engines failing, can't release bombs. Only option we have is to drop on them, plane and all. Let's take them motherfuckers out. Engines gone in 8, 7, 6.
This is Bayonne, New Jersey, calling Langham Field. This is Bayonne, New Jersey, calling Langham Field. Come in, please.
This is Langham Field. Go ahead.
8 bombers engaged with the enemy briefly over Jersey Flats. Engines are incapacitated by the heat Rachels. No survivors, 1 enemy machine destroyed. Enemy now discharging heavy black smoke in the direction of...
This is Newark, New Jersey. This is Newark, New Jersey. Warning, poisonous black smoke pouring in from the Jersey marshes. Gas masks are useless. We urge the population to move in open spaces, but social distance. Highways are a parking lot. Avoid congested areas. Smoke now, spreading over Ramush Boulevard. Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
2X2L, 2X2L, calling CQ. 2X2L, calling CQ. 2X2L, calling 8X3R. Come in, please.
This is 8X3R. Come back at 2X2L. Stand by, Red Leader.
How's reception? How's reception? Okay, please. Where are you, 8X3R? Son of a bitch, what's the matter? Where are you? Are you anywhere?
I'm speaking from the roof of the broadcast building in New York City. The bells you hear behind me are ringing to notify people to evacuate the city due to alien threat as the Martians approach. 3 million people, it has been estimated, have already left the city. Avoid bridges to Long Island. They are hopelessly jammed and hopelessly devoted. All communication with Jersey Shore has been severed 10 minutes ago. We have no more defenses or access to hair product. Our army is wiped out. Artillery, Air Force, everything wiped the fuck out. This may be the last broadcast, not of my career, but like ever. Like every other news story, we will stay here to the end of the world or until we can cut to commercial. People are holding services below us in the cathedral. I can see manners of boats overloaded in the harbor with people overflowing on these boats pulling out from the docks trying to escape the Martian menace. Streets are all jammed. Noise and crowds like New Year's Eve in New York City. Wait a minute. Enemy now plain in sight above the Palisades. 5 great machines. First one is crossing the Hudson River. I can see it from here. Like a fat man wading through a jacuzzi. This just in. Martian cylinders are now falling all over the country. Buffalo, Chicago, St. Louis seem to be evenly timed in space. Now the first machine reaches the shore, watching, looking over the city. Its steel head is even with the tops of the skyscrapers. He waits for the others. They rise like a line of new towers on the city's west side. Now they're lifting their metal hands. Smoke is coming out, drifting over the city. People in the streets are running towards the East River, thousands of them dropping in like rats. Now the smoke being blown up people's asses, spreading faster. It's reached Times Square. People trying to run from it, but it's no use. They're falling like flies, and any appearance of positivity everywhere you look. Now the smoke's crossing 6th Avenue, 5th Avenue, 100 yards away from me now. 50 feet. This is the end, it seems. May man survive, and fuck Mars, by the way. And This is Chet Ritraff from Humanity, signing off. And now a word from our sponsor. 2X2L calling CQ. 2X2L calling CQ. 2X2L calling CQ, New York. Is there anyone on the fucking air? Is there anyone there? Is there anyone anywhere? 2X2L.
You're listening to the Vaudeville Press presentation of Orla, Wallace and the Round Dial Theatre in a parody of an original dramatization of The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. The performance will continue after a brief piss break. This is Vaudeville Press Podcasting System.
As I write this sitting on the side of the road, I'm obsessed by that thought that I must be the last motherfucker on Earth. That ain't good. Imagine that bullshit. I've been hiding in this empty house near Muskie Mill, a small island of daylight cut off by the rest of the world due to the black, vapey smoke. All that happened before the arrival of these damn aliens. A life that now has no continuity with the present. Talk about a futile existence of the lonely derelict who scribbles astronomical notes bearing the signature of one Dick Pierce. Whip-dee-fucking-do. I looked down at my nasty-ass hands, my worn-out shoes, tattered and wrinkled clothes, scratched my fucking watch, and I can't connect to my former self, the douchebag professor from Princeton, who, by the way, on the night of October 30th, just happened to look through his telescope, observing an orange splash of light on a distant planet. My wife, my colleagues, my students, my books, my observatory, my fucking guitar, my car, my world, my coffee maker? Come on, where are they? Did they ever exist? Am I Dick Pierce or just a dick? What day is it? Do I care? Do days exist without coffee? Does time pass and there are no human hands left to wind the clocks or hit the snooze button repeatedly? When writing down my day-to-day life, I tell myself to preserve what's left of the soon-to-be human history between the pleated covers of this little book that was meant to record the movements of the stars. But I ran out of rolling paper about a week or so ago, so, you know. But to write, I must live, and to live, I must eat. I did find some moldy bread in this one poor bastard's kitchen, but I cut the edges off like Grandma used to do. Oh, and a can of mandarin oranges. I keep watch at the window. Occasionally I catch a sight of a Martian craft above the smoke layer, jagoffs. The smoke still holds the house in its grasp. There's this hissing sound, and suddenly I see a Martian mounted on his machine spraying a jet of steam to dissipate the smoke. I watch from a corner in the house under a dirty blanket as its huge metal legs nearly brush against the house, exhausted by a terror-filled life. I just short-circuit and fall asleep and ta-da! Morning! The sun streams in the window, and speaking to stream, I take a leak off the back porch. The black cloud of gas is lifted, the scorched meadows of the north look as though a blizzard of ash has passed over them and dropped just a ton of shit. I wonder what the weather guy would have named it. Anyway, so I ventured back to the house, and here and there's a wrecked car, baggage overturned, a blackened skeleton devoid of life. For some reason, I feel safer stalking these monsters than running from them. But I keep careful watch. So draining. I've seen the Martians feed. Fucking slobs. Should one of their machines appear over the top of the trees, I am ready to fling myself flat on the earth and play dead, like the French. October chestnuts are ripe. I fill my pockets. I must keep alive. Too bad the Martians don't have a nut allergy or some bullshit like that. I've been walking north for 2 days through a desolate, empty world. You could still smell the fear in the air, and you could taste the loss. Finally, I notice another living thing, a small red squirrel. I stare at him, and I wonder. Well, he stared back at me and waved. Seems those mushrooms I ate earlier might not have been what I thought they were. Bonus. I believe at the moment the animal and I shared the same emotion. That was, of course, after he bummed a cigarette. The joy of finding another living human being. Not human being. Animal being. Conscious being. Anyway, the mushrooms must be really working their ways. I find dead cows in the field.
one after another looking like roasts left out overnight. Poor things. No one can eat them. Beyond that, the charred ruins of a dairy. The silo remains standing guard over the wasteland like a lighthouse deserted by the sea, now devoid of life or any signs of branded advertising. The next day I came to a city vaguely familiar in its contours, and yet its buildings strangely dwarfed and leveled off its highest towers with the capricious sweep of an unknown hand. I found Newark from the outskirts, humbled by some whim of the advancing Martians, presently with an odd feeling of being watched, like when I pee at church. I catch sight of something or someone crouching in a doorway. I step towards it. Well, it rose up and became a man, armed with a large fucking knife. Great.
Where the hell did you come from?
I come from many places. A long time ago from Princeton.
Princeton, huh? Is that why you talk funny? Wait, are you real or am I seeing shit? Seems I ate the wrong, I'm eating right mushrooms from the outside of town there. That Princeton, you say? That's near Muskie's Mill. Had a cigarette with the squirrel there. Anyway.
Yes?
Muskie's Mill. Ha 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 ha. There's no food there, my friend. This is my country now. All this to the end of town down to the river. There's only food for one, which, by the way, isn't you, because that one would be me.
I don't know. I guess I'm looking for people.
Wait, what was that? You hear that?
Only a bird. A live bird.
I got a bird for you. Say, we're in the open here. Let's get the fuck off the street and out of line of fire there, smart boy.
Have you seen any Martians?
Nah, not lately, but I've seen a lot of other crazy shit. They've gone over to New York, you see. At night, the sky's alive with their lights, just as people are still living in it instead of dying in it. Can't see the fuckers in daylight, though. A couple days or so ago, I saw a few of them carrying something big across the flats there from the airport. I believe they're learning how to fly.
Fly? Get the fuck out. The beings that came, interstellar, through space, in a spacecraft, can fly? No.
Oh, yeah, it's science there, smart boy.
Well, then it's all over for humanity there, stranger. There's still the two of us left. And who knows how long it's going to take to get the results from those studies.
Don't you be looking at me goofy now. They got themselves in solid. They wrecked the greatest country in the world, according to the PR. Those green stars, that space snot probably falling somewhere every night. So they will probably get the shitty towns too, I imagine. They've only lost one machine. There isn't anything to do. We're done. We're licked. And not in the way that makes the eyes roll back into your head, you know what I mean?
Well, I see you're wearing a uniform.
Yeah, what's left of it. I was in the National Guard. Wasn't any war anymore because there's no war between men and ants. Looks like we just got squished. Some days you're the windshield, some days you're the bug.
And you put a cherry on top of it. We're edible ants.
I've thought it all out, don't you know? Right now, the Jagoff Martians only have a few miles to get. A crowd on the run, but they don't keep doing that. They'll begin catching us systematic-like, keeping the best and storing us in cages and things like that, like them kids on the border. Might even eat the biggins. They haven't even begun.
Not begun?
Did I stutter there, oxfuck? Yes, not begun. All that's happened so far is because we don't have sense enough to keep quiet. Bothering them with big guns and such, losing our heads and rushing off in mobs. Now instead we've got to prepare ourselves, train ourselves, according to the way that things are now. Civilization, progress, that's done.
But if that's so, what's there to live for?
Oh, the stage. No life, you stupid idiot. That's what. I want to live. Yeah, and so do you. We're not going to be exterminated that easily, and I don't mean to be caught either, or tamed, or fattened, or bred like an ox.
Then what are you going to do?
I'm going on, right under their feet. I got a plan. We menaced men are finishing not just by updated terminology. We don't know shit yet. No intelligence. Gotta learn plenty before we've got a sliver of a chance, and we've got to live free while we learn.
I've thought it all out, see?
Well, can't wait to hear this.
Well, it isn't all of us that were made to be consumed by the wild beast, don't you know? And that's what it's got to be. That's why I watched you instead of cooking you for dinner. Make a fine roast there, lad.
Excuse me?
What?
You're gonna eat me?
I even have potatoes. Anyway, all those little office worker fucks that used to live in these houses, fucking worthless. They haven't any grit to them, no balls, just keyboard warriors with a sense of rage and self-importance that in the end goes fucking nowhere. They just used to run off to work. I've seen hundreds of them, running wild to catch their train in the morning. For fear they'll get canned if they didn't. Running back at night, afraid they won't be in time for dinner. Life's insured, a little investment, in case of accidents. And on Sundays, worry about the hereafter because of the shit they do during the week. The Martians will be a godsend for those who adhere to conformity. Nice roomy cages, good food, careful breeding, no worries. After a week or so of no lattes and empty stomachs, they'll be glad to be caught. Rather than learn to be self-reliant.
Well, you've thought it all out, haven't you?
You'll bet your ass. And that isn't all. These fucking Martians will make pets out of some. Train them to do tricks and shit. Who knows? One day they might even get sentimental over a pet boy who grew up and had to be killed. And some, maybe, they'll train to hunt. Us. You know, for sport. Mushroom?
No, that's impossible. No human being. Oh, sure.
Yes, they will. Humanity is a thing for history books yet to be written. I hope they get my good side stuffed right. These are men who'll do it gladly. If one of them ever comes after me, why, Allah.
In the meantime, you and I and others like us, I'm sure there are others hiding somewhere, where are we going to live now that the Martians own the Earth? What are you sniffing?
What? Oh, I've got it all figured out. We live underground, see? I've been thinking about the sewers. Under New York are miles and miles of them. The main ones are big enough for anybody. Then there's cellars, vaults, underground storerooms, rental tollways, subways. You begin to see, eh? We'll get a bunch of determined people together, like us, like-minded, no weaklings or complainers. Those tunnels are mob-run, or used to be. So you know the government hasn't fucked them up yet.
And am I welcome in this new world of yours?
I don't know. Are you? Well, I did give you a chance, didn't I? You seem to be schooled well enough to survive Ground Zero. Gonna need the learned, you know, book smart. Fellers like you.
No argument there.
And we've got to make safe places for us to stay in case of scary words, you see. And get all the books we can, science books. That's where men like you and me come in, see? We'll raid the museum, spy on the Martians. It may not be much to learn before. Okay, imagine this, 4 or 5 of them, own fighting machines, suddenly start off. Heat rays.
Those are heat Rachels?
Heat rays.
Those are heat Rachels?
I said heat rays, right and left, and not a Martian in them. Not a Martian in them, but men, or woo men, who have learned how. It may even be in our time. Imagine having one of them lovely things with its heat, Rachel.
Gotcha.
Heat ray, wide and free. We'd turn it on Martians. We'd turn it on men. We'd bring everyone down to their knees. It's human nature for the few to control the many. They don't like it. Make them submit, you know, for their own good and benefit of all mankind kind of thing.
I see, and what are you smelling?
Toilet paper must have ripped there. Hey, where you going?
Not in your world. Later, Dick.
Have it your way. Oh, and Mr. Oxfuck, quit talking to yourself, by the way. It's not healthy. Good day, sir. The squirrel will see you out.
After parting with Numbnuts, I came to the last Howland Tunnel. I entered anxious to know the fate of the city on the other side of the Hudson. I cautiously made my way out of the tunnel and made my way up 14th Street. There was black powder everywhere, several bodies capturing the last moments of humanity, and an evil, ominous smell. Almost like the devil's lettuce. God, I miss jazz. I wandered what seemed for miles. I stood alone on Times Square. Vacant apartments everywhere. That's a lot of profit gone. I caught sight of a skinny dog running down 7th Avenue with a piece of dark brown meat in its jaws. He made a wide circle around me as though he feared I might prove a fresh competitor, wanting to take that rancid meat from his mouth. I walked up Broadway in the direction of the strange powder. past silent shop windows displaying their mute wares to empty sidewalks. Finally got that leather jacket I wanted, though, past the Capitol Theater near Columbus Circle. I did notice models of brand new motor cars in the showrooms, facing empty streets, with no people to drive them. From over the top of the General Motors building, I watched a flock of black birds circling the city. Suddenly, I caught a sight of the hood of a Martian machine standing somewhere in Central Park, gleaming in the late afternoon sun. An insane idea. I rushed recklessly across Columbus Circle and into the park. I climbed a small hill above the pond at 60th Street. From there, I could see, standing in a silent row along the mall, 19 of those alien motherfuckers standing up straight, ready to go. Great steel arms hanging listlessly by their sides. I looked in vain for the Martians. Suddenly, my eyes focused on the immense flock of birds that hovered directly below me. They circled to the ground, and there, before my eyes, stark and silent, lay the Martians, the hungry birds pecking and tearing down shreds of flesh from their dead bodies, proving to be Earth-based parasites. Later, when their bodies were examined in the laboratories, it was found that they were killed by the putrefactive and disease bacteria against which their systems were unprepared for. Human hatred. Kind of like giving them an Alka-Seltzer and waiting for them to explode, or the government giving the Native Americans blankets filled with smallpox and telling them to keep warm. That's about as cold as one can get. Before the Martians landed, there was a general persuasion that though all the deep of space, no life existed beyond the petty surface of our big blue marble, due to our own self-importance. But we are only a speck in space. Now we see further, past the end of our arms and beyond our stargazing abilities. Dim and wonderful is the vision I have conjured up in my mind of life spreading slowly from this little seedbed of the solar system throughout the inanimate vastness of space. But that's a pipe dream. It may be the destruction of the Martians is only a reprieve before the second wave, those fucks. Their deaths, of course, due to an allergy of human hypocrisy and hatred gone wild in a time of fear of what no longer is the unknown. It now seems strange to sit in my peaceful study at Princeton writing down the last chapter of the record, begun at a deserted farm in Muskie's Mill. Strange to see from my window the university spires dim and blue through an April haze. Strange to watch children playing in the streets, picking pockets and selling drugs like the old days. Strange to see young people rolling on the green looking for a place to make out or to smoke some dope in peace, where the new spring grass heals the last burnt scars of a bruised earth. Strange to watch the sightseers enter the museum, where the disassembled parts of a Martian machine are kept on public view, like criminals of the not-too-distant past. Strange when I recall the time when I first saw it, bright and clean-cut, hard and silent, under the dawn of the last gray of the humanity's supremacy over our own planet. Or is it? Fucking speciest. This is Orla Wallace, ladies and gentlemen, and all in between. Out of character to assure you that the War of the Worlds has no further significance as a mass mind control test it was intended to be. The Round Dial Theater's own podcast version of dressing up in a sheet and jumping out of a bush and saying boo. We couldn't egg all your windows or shit on all your doorsteps and light it on fire, hypothetically. Or steal all your salt shakers by tomorrow night. So we did the best next thing. We annihilated your society before your very ears, and your ability to think critically. You will be relieved, I hope, to learn that we didn't mean it, and that both institutions are still open for business. So say goodbye, everybody, and remember the terrible lessons you learned tonight. That grinning, glowing globular invader of your living room is an inhabitant of the pumpkin patch. And if your doorbell rings and nobody's there, that was no Martian. It's Halloween. Trick or treat.
Tonight, the Vaudeville Press Podcasting System and its affiliates, platforms coast to coast and around the globe have brought to you The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, the first in its quarterly series of parodies of dramatic broadcasts featuring Orla, Wallace, and the Round Dial Theater.
Join us next time as we present a satirization of the Christmas Carol. This has been the Vaudeville Press Podcasting System. This concludes our programming for the evening. Good night.